I know you, I can feel you with the green of soul. It's more than empty dreams and promises. It's not infecting me no more. When all I say to you is let it gone, you won't be feeling me no more. I know you, I can feel you with the green of soul. When you're not looking at me, I feel so small. When all streets of all our memories, there's not being alone at one. And thoughts of you just break me down inside. I sing it with the green of souls.
All right, you guys, back again. One more time. Subscribe to the channel, you guys. Hit that bell notification. Like the video for the content. You guys are awesome. Welcome to the listening room. With me today, my co-host, Miss Daisy, right down there. And my guest today, with more than 25 years of experience as a teacher and coach, my guest has dedicated her life to empowering children of all ages. She is the director of Pint Size Fitness and Sports, an enrichment program for young children in the form of classes and camps that are offered through city parks and recreation, as well as schools and private preschools. Sarah, originally from the UK, studied child development and is a certified fitness counselor and certified physical education coach. In her spare time, she trains in and teaches karate and helps run anti-abduction workshops for women and children. You can visit Pint Size Sports at facebook.com/Pint Size Sports. Please welcome to the listening room, Miss Sarah Miller. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on today and talking about your program here. I met you last week when I got on with you, and I was on with you and Ari, who's actually a frequent guest of the show. And I got to know a little bit about your company, and I was pretty taken aback, and I was pretty impressed with what you do and kind of the services you offer. So I thought I'd have you on and talk to some of my people out here about what you do and just kind of spread the word about your programs and stuff. But first, I always like to start my show off like I like to start my day off with a little bit of gratitude. So why don't you give me something you're grateful for today, Sarah?
Well, I'm a parent, so I have to say I'm grateful for my kids.
Sure.
Especially that they're healthy and safe right now, so that's the most important thing.
I love that. Family is always a big one. And it's not lost on me as well. I don't have kids at the moment, but I definitely can understand. I have 15 nieces and nephews, and
Wow.
so I love my family very much. So I can completely understand where you're coming from.
Right.
And I'll kind of piggyback on that one today and say I'm grateful for my stepdad. My stepdad taught me a lot about personal responsibility, and I remember specific instances where I was growing up, and he would have me do the lawn, and I'd come in and he'd walk out, this spot, you missed this, and I have to do the whole thing over again. He'd make me do the whole thing over again. And I learned to not for lack of a better term, half-ass stuff.
Right.
Because somebody else is going to have to come up, get behind you and clean up after you, or someone else is going to, or you're going to have to do it twice.
Right.
So in order to forego that hassle, I found that doing it right the first time and having pride in your work is of paramount importance in general. So I'll definitely piggyback on that gratitude and say I'm grateful for family as well. I'm grateful for my stepfather actually today, and I always like to say too that I find that it's of paramount importance to stay active in your own mental and emotional health, and I find one of the best ways to do that is to acknowledge the things you're grateful for. Just talk about them, write them down. Just say them, talk about them with people that you don't know, talk about people you do know. Just be very verbal and very aware of those things that you're grateful for. And I find that's one of the best ways to stay active in your own mental and emotional health, and not allow the circumstances of, everyday life to always dictate the way you feel.
Absolutely.
So let's just get right into it. Let's get right into it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Pint Size Sports and about what it is that you guys offer?
Sure. So, a little bit of background. I started Pint Size Sports in 1999 is when I first started the company. And the reason I started it was because I used to work in Manhattan Beach. I came to the U.S. and worked as a nanny. And when I was a nanny in Manhattan Beach, I used to take the kids I would nanny for, and we'd go to the park and we would play soccer or play sports. And I used to think, back then, they really didn't have any classes like mine for little kids. There was one or two, but really nobody was doing it. So I just thought, it'd be a really great idea to have little kids classes to learn how to play soccer and learn how to play sports. So I sent a proposal to the city of Manhattan Beach, and they accepted it. They loved the idea, and it just took off. And I started with I actually started with the fitness part because at that time, I was a certified fitness trainer, and I wanted to do a little fitness class for kids. So I started with that one, and I also added a soccer class, like a little intro to soccer, and it was super popular. The sports classes were so popular. And, I played sports myself too, so I knew is just how to get kids interested, how to get them to really enjoy it was the important thing, and how to get kids to love exercise and not see it as a punishment. Because, sometimes, especially when I grew up, it was, you were punished by doing push-ups, so you were punished by running, and I didn't want that for kids. I wanted to see them really enjoying exercising and being active.
Sure. I like that too. I think most people do see that as something valuable, and you're right. When you're a kid, sometimes when you're in PE and you have to run a mile or you have to run a lap before you do anything, or for warm up, it's like, oh my God, I got to run a lap, or I got to do this, or I got to do. But you're right. It's like kind of instilling that fervor for athletics in kids at a young age. And how do you find it best to do that? What are you doing? Because I know you're doing a little bit of something different than most companies. I know you're approaching younger children. And what are you doing with this model that you're kind of implementing here? Excuse me.
So how I started out, I saw that there was already programs for kids, in elementary school, and there was, AYSO and soccer programs, but I noticed that there was a lot of younger kids, especially the ones that were more shy and not as athletic, that were getting left behind because there was nothing to give them an introduction and teach them the basics, and most importantly, give them that confidence, give them a little boost of self-confidence. So I just wanted my program to be a fun introduction where they would learn the basics, the super basics of sports, and also get a taste for different sports. So the way I did it was, and we still have this, we do a multi-sports program where each week they learn a different sport. So they might not really take to soccer, but then they might try basketball or hockey or t-ball and be like, oh, I love this. And so it gave them a chance to just, test out the sport without having a bad experience. Because I think that, first impressions are so important, and especially for young children, if they have a bad experience when they first start their sports journey, it can put them off. And I think that's really sad. I think it's, something that even parents, and I myself am guilty of it, we push too much because we played this sport and we want our child to enjoy it, but then we push them and it can make them a little hesitant, So I think we really need to back off and just let them experience it and try it for themselves and see if they enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it might not be for that child. They might be into something else.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. I think a lot of the early experiences, obviously do shape the child's view of certain sports and certain things. And I will say, actually, I totally agree with you. And I actually think that there's so many things out there that kids could be trying. But a lot of the traditional sports are really pushed. Baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, football. These things. Far more than even martial arts or even some of the extreme sports that like Ari and I have been talking about lately, like skating and surfing and some of these types of things. But I will say there is something to be said for that push from a parent, just from a personal level. I do remember a specific instance that when I was about 8, I was about 7 or 8, and I remember I told my mom I don't want to play baseball anymore. I was like, I really don't want to play anymore. I'm not really enjoying the team I'm on. I'm not really enjoying doing this. And she said, you know what? She said, I'll make a deal with you. She said, I won't make you play anymore. I won't sign you up for baseball anymore. If you, as long as you try hard go to practice tonight, try hard for the rest of the season, and after the season, if you don't like it, after you've really tried hard, then I'll never sign you up for baseball again. And I remember going to practice that night, and I remember thinking, okay, I told her I'm gonna try hard. And I remember I ran that lap we were talking about. You run the lap before practice, and I remember actually applying myself and running hard. And I remember I remember realizing it, like it was one of the first times I realized, like, hey, I'm pretty fast. Hey, this is kind of cool. Like, I'm actually like one of the faster kids out here, And then I was like, hey, like I can do things like that other people can't do athletically. And then I started really applying myself and realizing that I was good at it. Once you never know if you're actually good at something unless you really try that thing. You know what I mean? And I guess it's difficult for parents to get that or to get that through to a child, because a child doesn't necessarily understand that fully. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But as long as they can give it their all and really apply themselves and try, they might do really well. They might find out that they're really good at that thing. You know what I'm saying? And then love it. But you never know unless you try, and until the kid tries, unless you're backing the kid, you know what I mean, and allowing them to try all kinds of different things, promoting that, what.
Yeah, I always say there's a fine line between pushing or forcing. It's more forcing and encouraging and gentle
Yes.
nudging, I always say. You want to keep it fun because you don't want them to be put off for life, because they might come back in a few years and say, hey, I want to go back to that sport. But yeah, that absolutely, you don't want to quit either. You don't want to quit your child.
Of course.
You want to encourage them as much as possible until you really see, okay, they're not enjoying this. I don't want to force them to do it. Let's find something else instead.
Right. And with what you do, you are taking very young children. You're starting at did you say 3?
Yeah, we have classes, parent and me classes, where 2.5-year-olds and to 3.5.
Very cool. And it's just, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've understood from what we've been talking about, it's really familiarizing the children with the art itself, instead of necessarily teaching all the basics and the forms and the techniques right off the bat. It's just familiarizing themselves and getting them to understand kind of what it is.
Right. And especially that age, when you have a 2 or 3-year-old, it's a lot more to do with just getting them used to being out there amongst other children and learning how to take turns and learning how to listen and learning how to follow direction, and using their motor skills of jumping and running and stopping and turning, and it's very basic. I mean, I really break it down to the basics of, everybody jump, everybody freeze, that type of thing.
Interesting.
So when you're at that age, yes, we are learning how to kick a soccer ball or how to throw a basketball, but that's not what it's important right now. What's important is just, following directions and participating.
Interesting. Taking cues, social cues, directional cues, things like that, and then also utilizing the sport itself to engage the child in that manner, in that, we're gonna run, we're gonna kick, we're gonna stop, we're gonna do that, and so I like that. It's very intuitive to start that young and to start teaching those cues that young, because that's what they're doing already. That's what they're doing. They're watching. That's how they're developing. The child is watching and it's emulating. So when you can actively help them emulate, which, you know what I mean, instead of just like being a role model for them, which is good, but when you can actively participate in the emulation of helping the child emulate and be active in that, it's crazy. There's a lot of positive reinforcement behind that whole model, and a child grows, from there.
Right. Yeah, I see children that when they first come to the class, 4 or 5 year olds, and they're very quiet and shy, and, especially with the team sports, but also with the martial arts, more on the timid side. And after a few seasons or sessions of our program, you really see them come out of their shell, and really you see them boosting that confidence. And it's one of the things that is the biggest joy in my classes and teaching these programs, is just seeing the child that was, always the quiet one or had less confidence, just really flourishing. That's quite
absolutely. I absolutely love that. And you do see that with programs like this, with enrichment programs like this, where a child gets to explore parts of themselves that they haven't explored before. And I've again seen that in music as well. I run a songwriting program, and I see that same thing happen in music all the time. In sports too, I've experienced it with martial arts myself. Anyone who does any form of self-defense will tell you. Anyone who's done any form of martial arts will actually tell you what there is a feeling of confidence involved with exploring the kinetic movements of yourself. And when you start to understand what your body is capable of, there's a level of freedom and confidence and self appreciation, kind of, not hubris or pride necessarily, but it's just wow, I didn't know that my body could do this. I'm very glad that I'm in touch with that. You know what I mean? It's and being in touch with that aspect of self, and I'm sure you can attest to this being a martial artist, it's something about that allows you to really, be confident and hold your head high and do what you need to do in life,
Empowering.
It's totally empowering. Absolutely. It's a large part of self-growth, actually, I feel like, to learn any new thing, But plus, it's firing new synapses in the brain, and it's actually like, creating new neural pathways whenever you're learning, anything. So you're actually making yourself smarter, people, like on a physical level, on a molecular level. But so right now you have shifted into you're shifting currently into an online business model, and I know that you're teaching classes currently now. Were you always online? Did you always have that model, or did you shift into that recently? And have you been running a brick and mortar before?
So yeah, we didn't before. It was always a goal of mine to start adding online programs to make it more, reachable to people that aren't in our immediate area. But up until recently, we focused on offering our programs in the local areas. And the difference with my program, somewhat unique, was that it was a mobile program. So I would take my program to schools or to parks and recreation, and I would take everything there and do the classes there, and which made it really convenient for parents, especially if they're working parents and their child is in school all day. We would come to them and teach the classes there at the school. So obviously more recently, parks and recreation facilities are all closed down, and the schools are mostly shut, so the social distancing and that. So I started offering my classes through Zoom. I saw other people doing it, and I thought, let's give it a try. And it has been great. It's actually been working out quite well.
Very cool. And you're looking to develop more of the digital market, more of the digital presence, and to do some video series for certain sports and
Yes.
different things. And we're looking forward to seeing that too. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Yes, so the really cool part of offering my programs on Zoom is that I have kids attending that live in New York and live in New Mexico and all over the country, and it's really quite exciting. However, with the live classes, so the time has to work, and obviously if we have a 3 o'clock class here, then it's 6 o'clock on the East Coast, so it can be a little bit late for people that live over there. But then I've had interest from people in Spain and Canada that were like, oh, your classes look really fun, we'd love to join. So my idea is to just produce an online or some kind of video series of just lessons, so that if a child in Europe wanted to learn pint-sized karate and take the basics and just learn something about martial arts, they could take our course and get a good feel for it. And again, it's like an introduction. Possibly we could add more and more programs to where we add the intermediate classes and advanced classes. But yeah, it's something that I'm really interested in adding as a supplement to in-person learning. I don't think you can replace in-person learning with online learning, but I mean, you can learn pretty much anything online these days. So
yeah, you're right about that.
It's a good crossover.
Yeah, having the in-person aspect, being able to be in person with your student is definitely a huge deal.
Yeah.
However, with everything going on, just being able to shift your model and being able to do something different and do something digital and online, I think it's just you're just taking advantage of the tools at hand to do the job necessary. And what's funny about that is that I was talking to somebody else about this not long ago on this show, but I'm seeing that there's some of the businesses that I've seen that have successfully shifted their model to an online learning or an online an online business. What I've seen is a boom as opposed to a lull, because what I'm seeing happen with the businesses that have been successful doing it is, just like you said, they're having people from like Canada and Spain and Brazil and like Russia like hitting them up and going, hey, we see your class, we want to take your class. So now you're not only marketing to a local population, you're marketing to a international population. So if you can get your even word of mouth or your class flyers or a little 15 30 second or a full minute little like Instagram video, and have it play in Spain, have it play like you said in Spain or South America somewhere, or like Europe somewhere, and then just get 10, 15, 20, 30 clients from that area. You know, you can market to anywhere in the world and have your business flourish, no problem, if you do it right. You know, and it, you know, it looks like the business model that you have has value, has extreme value. I personally feel like the exploration of self at that age is, and the direction of how to do that is extremely valuable and important, and it's not an oversaturated market, by the way. There's not a lot of people out there doing that. There's not a lot of people out there working with kids that are 2 and 3 years old. A lot of people out there who do teaching services and educational services and things along those lines are starting at like 6 and up. You know, so you're actually hitting a market that's fairly untouched, which in business, you know, is an extremely good thing. You know.
Yeah, it takes a special kind of person to work with 2 and 3 year olds.
Right, you're right. Yeah, a little bit of patience and.
Especially a lot different. It's so different than, you know, your average 6-year-old and your average 4-year-old. There's a big difference. Huge
difference, absolutely. And another thing I can attest to, we did this. I have a nonprofit that works with kids, and once a month on Saturdays we would go out and work with this other nonprofit organization locally called the Exceptional Day of Play. And what we would do is we would go out and we would just take a ton of instruments out, and it was a big festival for children of all abilities. And we would take a bunch of instruments out and set them up, and we'd have this big booth with a ton of instruments, and all the kids could come in and pick up any instrument they wanted and get a little bit of, you know, here's how to hold it, you know, here's how to, you know, here's how to hit the drum, here's how to do this, and they could just do it, you know.
Oh, cool. That sounds awesome.
So, but that's what I'm saying. That's exactly, you know, it's a very exploratory thing, you know.
Right.
So, but anyway, I love what you're offering. I absolutely love what you're offering, and like I said, it's a very unique market that you're getting into.
Right.
Good deal. So how has the growth of the business been since you jumped to digital?
Well, like I said, I started with the Zoom classes, and I added my classes to a couple of online registration platforms, which already had parents looking for type of classes. I mean, when the pandemic first started, I think so many parents were looking to find online classes for their kids just to keep their kids occupied. And even now, there's a lot of parents just looking online for ways to keep their kids busy, just keeping them engaged. And especially, I think at this time, it's especially important for kids to be active because, you know, they're stuck at home. There's lots of kids that their parents are trying to work from home too, and they're just not being active. And just even 30 minutes of getting them up and jumping around and moving is something that's, you know, really, really helpful right now for most. As a parent myself, I know that just getting some of their energy out is priceless. So it's actually been quite successful. You know, I've done a few Facebook ads, and it's just, you know, I'm getting good feedback from it.
Nice. So Facebook ads, has that been helping?
A little bit. I think more so from the registration platforms that I use. One of them is called Activity Hero, and there's a lot of parents. It's like a marketplace for classes, so you can go there to find a math class for your child, or an art class, or, you know, a martial arts class like mine. Sure. And I've gotten a lot of my registrations through that platform. But I'm also on a few other platforms too. So, you know, we're getting registrations, a few sprinkling in from different platforms, but mostly I think from the Activity Hero. And they set it up really well. They have a very easy to navigate website. It's easy to sign up for classes. It makes it very intuitive, and once they register, they get the link for the Zoom classes. So it's very streamlined, and yeah, it's nice and easy for most parents and for us providers.
Interesting. Scotch Bonnet asks if you're on Spotify, and also asked me to let you talk. Apparently, I wasn't letting you talk enough. So.
Oh, I am not on Spotify. No. Should I?
What's that?
Should I be?
As an educator, I'm not sure how that would play. If you do a podcast or something along those lines, I think that would, would be something that could be useful as maybe a tool. I think on Spotify or something along those lines. I mean, if you talk about education or just kind of talk about your business and where you're coming from, I think that could be actually useful as an advertisement tool for sure.
Yes, yeah, I'll look into it.
That's cool. Well, I'm actually not going to keep you too long today. We have a Thursday night jam session here later this evening, so I'll let you go. But thank you so much for joining me today, Sarah. You've been awesome. And where can everyone find Pint Size Sports at? And where can everyone go and find your website? Where can everyone find your Facebook and all that stuff?
So I'd say the best place to look us up is Facebook or Instagram. It's either one of those at Pint Size Sports.
Okay.
And we do have a website, but we're working on it, so it's under construction right now. So I'd say go Facebook or Instagram is the best way. And if you go on our Instagram page, you can actually click on the link to the Activity Hero to register for classes if anybody's interested.
Awesome. That sounds great. Everyone out there, visit Pint Size Sports at Facebook and Instagram, you guys, and check out the classes that Pint Size Sports offers with Sarah Miller. And I really appreciate your innovative courses, Sarah. It's really been impressive. I talked to you last week with Ari, and I was very impressed, and I was just glad to have you come on and explain some of your services, and hopefully some people out there with parents will hear this message and be able to capitalize on that and and take advantage of your services.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Sarah, you've been awesome. Thank you so much to you guys out there for watching today, you guys. Remember, guys, good things happen when you take the time to listen. My name is Eddie Booz, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night on The Listening Room, 6:30, right here. See you guys later. Take care. Thank you all. Love you all. Thanks for being a part of The Listening Room tonight. My name is Eddie Booz. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notifications, and give the video a like. We'll see you guys every Monday through Friday right here at 6:30. Take care.